Welcome to We Don't Have a Name for This. We're going to talk about some of the Scottsdale auction week results from Barrett Jackson. So starting with actually the top 10 cars, we're not going to go through them, but just to give you a quick breakdown, top 10 cars, 7 of them were European, 2 were American, and 1 was Japanese. The Japanese car, not surprisingly, was an LFA.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Oh.
So no surprise there.
Pulling my heartstrings with that one. Oh, I love them so much.
Yeah.
Such an amazing car. That V10, Toyota V10, first of all, which is just like, it's not a thing.
Yeah, it's not a thing. You don't get that from a Japanese car.
Right. Yeah. And it is one of, if not the best sounding engine ever produced. They are wild, absolutely wild sounding engines. Like they don't sound like anything else.
So number 5 is a 2015 Porsche 918 Spyder. It's 1.787 million US. So I think that's actually pretty strong. That's still basically double the value of what they were new to buy. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, just echoing that, I would say if you bought one in 2015, you're doing really well now. Seeing a doubling in value like that over the course of 9 years is pretty astronomical. 918s, I feel like, kind of fell off the radar for a little while. Like I know when they first came out, they were the talk of the town because they were replacing the Carrera GT in some sense.
Yeah, well, they're also probably one of the best driving, safest feeling hypercars of the time.
Right.
Because you also had the LaFerrari and the P1.
And the P1, yeah.
Right? They all came out around the same time.
Yeah.
And no one was allowed to actually 100% test them against each other. Right. At least initially, of course.
And then Top Gear did it.
And then Top Gear did it. And obviously, you could actually see in that the P1 is probably the scariest to drive. The LaFerrari was kind of in the middle. And the 918, well, it's a Porsche. So it's really fast and a little boring. In that way, not saying it's a bad
super
car.
Refined.
Yeah,
that's
super
the thing,
refined.
Right?
Sorry,
like
that's
super refined. And well, it's true though. It is true. A lot of those cars, like that was something that was pointed out as a little aside with the Chirons. Bugatti Chiron, 1,600 horsepower, but it doesn't feel like it. They're incredibly fast cars, but they're so well engineered and so well. They're just so well designed that the power delivery is incredibly controllable, and that's kind of the result with the 918, especially because there's the hybrid aspect to that too. So you've got front vectoring control with the electric motors in the front. It's really hard to have it break loose on you and have it be uncontrollable, unless of course you're looking for that. Whereas McLaren just went full send. And there's not really a whole lot of nannying. And those cars are, the P1's not a hybrid, is it? I can't remember.
Yeah, the P1 is.
It is a hybrid?
Yeah, it is.
Are they just rear wheel though?
Yeah.
That's it then. Yeah, that's the big difference. Because I remember watching that on Top Gear. That being just chaos, especially launching it, because it would break loose because there's no power delivery to the front end. So get a lot of oversteer and a lot of, but man, what a car.
So number 4, the 2005 Carrera GT, and it did 1.87.
1.87.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
So 1.87 million for that one.
And isn't that perfect? Hey, following the 918 Spyder.
It's 10 years older than the 918 that, of course, did 1.78, and I think that's perfect. It's right there. I think that those cars are. Definitely more desirable, I think, than the 918, at least now. It's just a little bit more iconic in a lot of ways. And obviously it's still, it's a V10.
Yep. Yeah, and you want to talk about scary cars with no nannies or anything. I mean, Porsche has a do not drive clause on these cars where you're not supposed to drive them unless you get the joints. Some joint. I don't know what
inspected.
it is. Yeah, inspected. And if the joint's not corroded, you're good to go. But if it is, then you're not supposed to drive it. That was almost the defining time period between supercar and hypercar. There were others in the game, but none of the major manufacturers had really come out with anything that was discernibly different. And I think the Carrera GT was kind of one of the first where Porsche was used to smaller, more compact sports cars like the 911, the Caymans of that era, and to come out with this effective monster. It's a mammoth car. I mean, compared to a 911,
Yeah.
it's huge.
Well, what else was out around then? Like there was what, the Enzo
Yeah,
and the
Ferrari and
the
then
Veyron.
the Veyron.
But the Veyron was unattainable for most people.
Right. Even then, it was
Right.
still a niche. It was a niche market car because they were. I mean, Bugatti in general is a niche market, right? So it's almost and to that effect. I mean, the early Koenigsegg's were out, the CCX. You had, I think, the Zonda Pagani was making.
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were
the
all
Zonda, yeah.
incredibly low production numbers,
Yeah.
and from brands that were relatively unknown at the time. Whereas Porsche has been, they were really well known, and to sort of come out with the Carrera GT at the time was groundbreaking, absolutely groundbreaking. So I could say, back to the pricing, as far as what it got at auction, yeah, I think it's right in line for a clean one. They are, I mean, clearly they're approaching $2 million, and I don't see that changing, especially because of, it's not going to go the other direction anytime soon.
I think that is one of the safe investments right now is a Carrera GT.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in the bull market list when we talked about 25th anniversary Countaches. I think it's a fairly safe investment. Yes, they might drop a little bit. However, you just keep holding it.
Yep.
In third place was a 1937 Mercedes-Benz 540K Special Roadster.
At an astonishing $2.42 million.
Don't see many of those, obviously, but is the only antique car, I think in the top 10? No, that's not right. It's the only antique car in the top 5.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's only pre-war antique car in the top 5. Stunning cars. If you've never seen one, you have to. Yes, it just kind of looks like an old car. If you don't really know what it is, but they are obviously very special cars for a reason.
And just huge, absolutely huge.
Yeah.
Again,
big
the
cars.
very shooting brake-esque, but just because of the gigantic, super long engine in the front. What's in those? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All I know is it's huge.
Yeah, it actually, it kind of reminds me of, like, it's one of those cars that you would see alongside, like, one of the Bentleys.
Right.
Of that time frame.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah, so the 540K Special has a 5.5 liter straight 8. So 8 cylinders in a line, which explains the length of the hood. I mean, the car is just, it seems like from the driver's seat, I feel like it would just feel like it goes on forever. They're wild cars to see, especially in person.
Yeah, and that's why it reminds me of the Bugatti, Bugatti, not Bentley.
Oh, Bugatti, right.
Bugatti, the Atlantic, the 57 SC Atlantic.
Right, yeah, the Type 57,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah. Just ridiculously long front end on those cars.
Yeah.
It just goes forever.
Yeah, I'm surprised we don't hear more about those cars.
That's true.
Because they're ultra rare. And usually the people who have them, they're just of that collector quality.
That's probably why, though, that we're not seeing too many of them, is just because they're any good condition ones don't come up ever. Anybody who has them keeps them, holds on to them, because that's a very special car.
And number 2 is a 2018 Bugatti Chiron. Came in at, $2.79 US? Sorry, $2.97 million US. That doesn't surprise me. I mean, to buy one, you're looking around that.
Yeah.
But these cars, they don't seem to sell over MSRP. You're always sitting around what they sold for new.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that, I guguess there's not a lot of desirability. I mean, they're desirable, but I think just the price point makes it difficult for people to justify. Maybe that's what it is.
Totally. I think, too, because they are looked at a little bit more of a mass market as Bugatti can be, especially without being like a pure sport or a Mansory package or anything that's really special edition or super limited run. Chirons are still a limited run car compared to pretty much anything else, but at the same time, they are produced in large enough numbers where I think there's the collectability of one that is just a run-of-the-mill, a base model, effectively.
Yeah.
In the near term is just not really there. The collectability is not really there. Yeah. But in the long term,
it might be.
Absolutely.
But you've seen what like Veyron prices.
That is true.
Right? That's one thing.
That is true.
Veyron prices, I don't think, have really gone anywhere.
No.
Which is also...
No, they're depreciating.
Yeah, they're depreciating.
If anything, they are depreciating, yeah.
Which is, it's kind of surprising.
It is.
I don't know what the right word would be, but I think it's surprising to me.
It's a shame. Yeah,
it's too bad. It's not like the Carrera GT. It's not like, some of these other cars that you're seeing. Even the 918, right? The Chiron is selling for MSRP still, whereas the 918 has doubled in value, basically.
Right. Well, I again, going back to that, I think a lot of it has to do with production run time. Because, I mean, like, the Veyron was produced for 10 years, right? And the Chiron is coming up on that now, too. I think it's been 10 years now. Was it 14 or 15 the first year?
I don't remember.
Yeah. With the 918, they only produced it for 2 years?
Yeah, it was very limited. And Carrera GT, I think, was only 2 or 3 years as well.
Right. So you just by doing that, you as a manufacturer kind of incite appreciation.
Number one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is a good one.
Yeah.
This is a good one. And it's not even a surprise. Like, being in the number one position for this, when I saw it actually come up at Barrett Jackson, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if this hits the top bid or the record anyway for the week. And yeah, sure enough, it smashed it pretty good.
Yeah. And this car, it also just had a very recent restoration in Victoria, British Columbia, just one province over from where we are. And it's a 56 300 SL Gullwing. That doesn't surprise me. It went for $3.41 million US.
Probably one of the most iconic, if not the most iconic, antique or semi-antique German vehicles for sure, if not one of the most iconic cars of all time. I mean, that thing, what a radical design, just in the door style. For the 50s, to have doors that came up like this, like it, that was so bizarre. And to have the hinges be on the roof. So it's not like a Lambo or something where it's a scissor style. The Gullwing style literally comes right off the roof. The hinges are pretty close to each other near the center. That kind of a concept in the 50s was so outlandish, and to come from a luxury manufacturer on top of that, man, what a car. And they really do have presence. Again, we saw one when we were in San Diego.
Yeah, just stunning cars.
Absolutely beautiful.
I don't want to say they take you by surprise, but it is something that you stop and you admire for quite a while. We were probably standing around the car for at least 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Just enjoying its, like, the presence, how it looks, looking at all the details.
And again, another car that if, we're going to look at it probably in another 10, 15 years. And because it's such an iconic car and they were a limited production anyway, and they're, 56s? 55th or 70, 68 years. Yeah. 68 years old. Yeah. That's a heck of a long time for something to be able to last in good condition in general. So it's yeah. And there's a lot of those cars out there still being driven. There's driver groups, right?
Especially obviously in the States, where they can actually drive those cars a little more often. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's driver groups still taking them out very regularly.
Wild.
It's very impressive to see that these cars have held their value so well. Mm-hmm. And that there's actually driver group willing to drive cars that are that expensive on a regular basis.
Right. Well, and again, I guess that's just more of a testament to the design, the build quality, and the engineering. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not just paying for a paperweight, you're paying for something that was built properly, and that's why it carries the kind of value that it does. Beyond the provenance and the legacy and the heritage from earlier, ultimately, it's still just an extremely well-built car.
This is a non-alloy bodied car too, which is also surprising that it did get that kind of value out of it.
Right.
But there, I guess, are alloy bodied cars, because of course that is one of the things that was mentioned in the article, that this was a non-alloy bodied car, and the other ones, I guess, do fetch
even higher.
So yeah, similar or higher. Right. Thank you for watching today. We really appreciate you tuning in. If you have any questions for us or anything you'd like us to talk about in the future, please leave that in the comments. If you did actually enjoy this and watch the end, please like and subscribe as well. We appreciate it.
We'll see you in the next one.